because I was like, what is business, what is not? And it becomes difficult because if you go out to even dinner with, like, let's say your powerlifting friends, but all of a sudden you want to talk about deadlifts for 25 minutes, you want me to look at your deadlift video, like, is it a business dinner now? Is it not? Like, so that gets confusing. So can you give any clarity on, like, how to have more clarity on what is a business write-off and what's not, but specifically, like, in the mind of, like, someone who, like, literally is a powerlifting coach and does online coaching?
Yeah,
Like,
coach, online
yeah.
coaching, all of that. I mean, really, in its simplest form, anything that you can directly tie back to your business can be a business expense. So again, hey, I went out to dinner with a couple of powerlifting buddies, and I ended up pitching my programming services, whatever the case may be. That's a business expense, which, to make it very clear and distinct, because the IRS is going to know what you talked about in that in that 30-minute, hour-long, 2-hour-long dinner. To make it very clear and easy, that's why you have the LLC. That's why you have a separate bank account for your LLC and for your business, so that you pay for it with your business card. So it's very clear, it's very trackable. You can send all the statements to your accountant who's filing your taxes, and it shows up on your actual statements for the year. And from there, just make a quick note, whether it be taking a picture of the receipt and making a quick note on your phone. Okay, hey, talked about blah blah blah. Just so you have like a record to just kind of see, cover your rear end type of deal. So I mean, really, the creative part about it, and this is where I like being very creative as to how we can find ways to create tax deductions. The most creative way is, hey, if you can flow it back to your business in any way, shape, or form, then you can 100% write it off, as long as you're doing so legitimately. If flying out to a powerlifting competition, that's a business expense. Hotels, business expense. Rental cars, business expense. Marketing for your business expense, whether that be cards, whether that be Instagram ads, whether that be like little things that we do here and there. All of those are business expenses. Even depending on how creative you get with certain sponsorships, etc. Let's say you have a sponsorship for clothing. Well, technically speaking, if you're a model for the clothes and you have to order product in order to model for it, those certain pieces of articles of clothing you can essentially call, a business expense in the form of attire or costuming, or however it is that you want to kind of label it. So a business expense is extremely broad. People can get very, very creative, and sometimes it's too creative with what they call a business expense. On the lower levels, it's not too big of a deal, but as you start, making more and more money, we also want to be very cognizant of the repercussions of it, because if we start writing off too much and you're showing that you only make $10,000 a year, but really you're bringing home cash and you're making $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 a month, well, when you try to go to your mortgage broker and get a loan, the bank's only going to see that you're making $10,000 a year. So we want to be very creative as to how we do that. And, I'm sure we could talk about retirement accounts and other ways that we can deduct expenses without kind of harming other areas of life that we might want to accomplish as well.
Oh my gosh. So already this is the podcast I needed 2 years ago. So my next question then is, so obviously you just made it very clear, right? If you get an LLC, have a business, actual account, way cleaner. And that's what I do as well. Now, I'm definitely in the back of my mind, always have a fear of being audited because I do write off a lot of stuff, but it's because I'm a second year business owner. So I don't essentially make a ton because I do put a lot of money into advertising and stuff like that. So how do you kind of make sure you don't get audited? Is there like a certain amount of money I should try to show I make as a very new business owner? Like, is it bad if I end up in a negative year one? Is that like, oh no, you're negative, but you still fed yourself, so you have to eat food?
Yeah. So I mean, most businesses in the beginning start off in the red anyway. Just globally speaking, if you look at virtually any business, especially brick and mortar businesses, if you have to build a building and it's a $500,000 building, unless you're doing $500,000 in revenue, net employees, net everything else, you're probably not making anything. So there's no real set amount that you have to show that kind of protects you from being audited. I will say having a tax preparer or a CPA or somebody running your taxes for you protects you from being audited, because they have their own lawyers, they have their own processes. Typically, if we're looking at people that get audited, more so people that do the taxes on their own, and you can see when you do it on your own, there's more room for error, so your chances kind of increase. But if you're doing it with the CPA, they know the right channels, they know all the right things to file and to do that. If you do get audited, you're kind of taken care of, because also their licenses are on the line, right? And so I say the easiest thing, or easiest way to prevent yourself from being audited is just spend the $200, $300, $400 maybe it might take the run-of-the-mill, just average powerlifting coach as they're starting off, to just have an accountant just file it for you. I see people pay $100 a month, 200, 300, 400, 500, $600 a month for online powerlifting coaching. I've heard it all. You can spend $300 a year just to make sure that you can cover your rear end. And it's a tax-deductible expense anyway, so
yes,
you can write it off. So you're really not even paying $300. So I would say out of everything, that's really the easiest way to kind of shield yourself from being audited. Or if you are audited, making sure that you don't have to rip your hair out doing it, you can have somebody else do it. Just have a professional do it. I believe in that wholeheartedly.